It's the ongoing history of protest songs. Clap your hands and sing along. So this is CJ Baker, and every month, my first of many shameless plugs on my website, Ongoing History of ProtestSongs.com, I do a monthly recap of the notable protest music released throughout the month. And since January, I've been doing video recaps as well. So April was a relatively slow month in terms of releases, but thankfully May is shaping up to be a solid month for protest music. So for example, slated for May 1st, which is the day I'm recording this, there's going to be new albums from Kneecap, Tori Amos, Ziggy Marley, and Moonwalker. So I'm looking forward to listening to those albums, and no doubt I'm going to heavily feature those in my next month recap. But there was still plenty of music to soundtrack another month of chaos. And right now, we're going to discuss a few songs and a few of the albums. So we're going to begin with songs. The first one we're going to discuss is Make It Make Sense, featuring Jello Biafra and Radio Pete by Wheelchair Sports Camp. So according to the band's website, Wheelchair Sports Camp is fronted by Kaylin Rose Heffernan, who's a wheelchair-using, profanely queer and tiny rapper with a very distinctly high-pitched sense of humor. So backed by a Gimp Greggy on drums, the band combines beats with Shredding Face live. So this is a note, that's the band's own description of themselves on the website. So that's how they describe themselves, not me. So the latest single by the unique hip-hop act features vocals from the hardcore punk pioneer and former Dead Kennedys vocalist, Jello Biafra. So the lyrics address how the government always finds the money to fund the military, but is unwilling to spend the necessary funds to address the homelessness crisis. And the video as well is basically irrelevant fun. So yeah, this is probably one of my favorite protest songs released this year so far. So it's quirky, but it also makes a serious, important statement as well. So the next song we're going to discuss is Boots on the Ground, featuring Tom Waits by Massive Attack. So this tune by the trip-hop pioneers and the iconic singer-songwriter appears to be from an untitled forthcoming project that Massive Attack announced they plan to release sometime in 2026. So the lyrics convey strong anti-war and anti-ICE sentiments that definitely resonate. So the video that was released links the boots on the ground to domestic law enforcement. So the video includes the following caption. The film that follows encapsulates his work across an epoch forming 6-year period. From the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis on the 25th of May 2020 to recent ICE raids on migrant communities and the killing of civilians that protect them, from the brutal state repression of public protest to the reality of American homelessness that includes nearly 33,000 military veterans. So yes, a very serious, important statement. So in connection with that, Massive Attack members Robert Freedy Denaja and Grant Daddy G. Marshall also issued a press statement concerning the timely tune. It's a career honor to collaborate with an artist of the magnitude, originality, and integrity of Tom. But this track is arriving in an atmosphere of chaos. Across the Western Hemisphere, state authoritarianism and the militarization of police forces are fusing again with neo-fascist politics. Seen within the American emergency at home and overseas, this track contained pulses of callous impulse and abandoned mind. So the next song we're going to discuss is Famine by Kate Nash. So this tune by the English and Irish singer and actress is a cover of Sinead O'Connor's song Famine, which appeared on her 1994 album Universal Mother. So the song provides a history lesson concerning the long-lasting impact of the Great Famine, which is also now more commonly referred to as the Great Hunger on Ireland. And it talks about how the Great Hunger was caused by colonial oppression. So following O'Connor's 2023 passing, Nash revisited her discography and was drawn to this tune, which exposed a part of history she hadn't been taught in school. So the
There was no famine. There was no famine. There was no famine.
And I just thought this is such an amazing song because she's teaching people, she's just like giving a history lesson, and that's really rare. And I just wanted to cover it. And I thought that it's so relevant to what's happening in the world today. It's relevant to me personally because I'm questioning why was I never taught about this at school.
cover of the track also allowed her to tap into her Irish roots by playing the tin whistle, which is the first instrument she learned as a child. Nash also resonated with the following lyrics, which sums up why the message is still important. If there's ever gonna be healing, there has to be remembering, then grieving, so that there can be forgiven. There has to be knowledge and understanding. So yes, some powerful, impactful lyrics. So definitely a timely message. So the next song we're going to discuss is Citizen by Chris Matthews. So singer-songwriter Chris Matthews often uses her music to promote the cause of social justice, and she states that her mission is to amplify the voices of the unheard, to shed light on the unseen, and to be a steadfast reminder that hope and love are the truest pathways to equity and justice. So in connection with this anti-ICE tune, Citizen, is a powerful and timely reworking of the Woody Guthrie classic Deportee, in which he gives the lyrics a modern update. So concerning the song, Matthews states, I turned it on and immediately thought there is an entirely different conversation that would be had were he trying to write that song now, because so much of the indignities being heard at our immigrant siblings are being heard at people who are in fact citizens of this country. As a proud Southerner, the notion of again seeing this country asked to see somebody's paper is beyond egregious. What is happening to them is an affront to their humanity. If they did absolutely nothing for this country, it would still be absolutely egregious because they are human beings and their humanity matters. Point blank, period. But the fact is, our immigrant community does so very much for this country. And so I sat down to just sort of rewrite Woody's song in a way that felt like it honored his original impetus for writing Deportee, the plane wreck at Los Gatos, and the tragic loss of over 30 migrant workers that resulted from the crash. But that still held space for the reality in which we are living. Citizen is the result of that endeavor. It was important to me to keep as many of Woody's words as possible because, again, that song is so very important. I hope that people who love Woody's music, and especially that song, will hold space for Citizen as well. I hope that the song helps them have important conversations about what is happening to our immigrant neighbors. So yes, a powerful reworking of the Woody Guthrie classic. And it's an important part of the folk tradition to rework classic and traditional tunes and to give a modern take of those tunes to contribute to ongoing dialogue. And along with this gorgeous reworking of the Porte, Matthews also released a gorgeous version of the Ed McCurdy classic anti-war protest song. Last night, I had the strangest dream. So like I said, that's a beautiful rendition of a classic protest song as well. So next we're going to discuss a couple songs by Jesse Wells, who continues to be prolific. And he released a few different protest songs throughout the month of April, but we're going to focus on two of them. So the first one is Lone Wolves. So this satirical tune concerns the assassination attempt on Donald Trump during the White House Correspondents' Dinner. So the lyrics also addresses the possibility of it being a false flag event. So personally, I'm not going to get into that argument about whether or not it was or wasn't a false flag, and I'm generally not into conspiracy theories. But one thing I will say, which is highlighting the lyrics as well, at the very least, Donald Trump used the situation and other right-wing influencers use this to promote a talking point concerning the White House ballroom. And also, the situation did serve as a distraction for the war in Iran, the Epstein files, and a lot of other chaotic things going on within Trump's administration. So at the very least, it did serve as a distraction and an advancement for a talking point. And the song also concludes with the impactful statement, must be what it's like just any day in the life of any kid in public school. So that reality of that constant threat of violence is a reality that unfortunately school-age children in the state are confronted with a lot more often than they should be confronted with. Like, kids shouldn't be afraid to go to school and afraid of potentially being shot, and they shouldn't have active shooter drills. So that's definitely a tragic reality. So the next song we're going to discuss that Jesse Wells released is Better to Die in Iran. So this song, basically Jesse Wells is known as a pacifist, and he frequently writes anti-war and anti-violence protest songs. So this should not come to any surprise that he would speak out against the war in Iran. And this is something similar to what he did before in 2025, back when Trump first bombed Iran. So he previously recorded the song, Sometimes You Bomb Iran. So we're now going to discuss a few albums that were released. So the first album we're going to discuss is Everything is Great by Kelsey Blanton and The Burning Hell. So concerning the recently released collaborative album between the socially conscious singer-songwriter Kelsey Blanton and the Canadian indie band The Burning Hell that features Matthias Kalm and Ariel Sharat, Blanton posted the following on Facebook. Sometimes the stars align, and in a venue's secret kitchen on a Canadian island, over a bottle of cheap wine, you meet your creative soulmates, the two other people on Earth who are equipped emotionally and spiritually to write a funny album about imperialism, private equity, late-stage capitalism, and what it feels like to be alive in the pre-revolutionary period. So yeah, the album definitely accomplishes that objective. There's a lot of brilliant satirical humor, but it also makes some powerful points that well expresses the political chaos that we're living in right now. And Blanton has had a prolific 2026. So along with this timely album of satirical tunes, Blanton's also released the Red Album Volume 2. So we're now going to go to our next album, Voice of the Revolution by the Neighborhood Kids. So this is the full-length debut album from the political rap group, who also happens to be one of Tom Morello's favorite band. So on my website, another shameless plug, ongoinghistoryofprotestsongs.com, I heavily feature this band, and I previously posted a video of 10 artists who prove that protest music is not dead. So basically 10 modern day artists, and Neighborhood Kids is one of those artists that I featured. So concerning the album, the band made this statement: this project is an encapsulation of the time we live in, as well as a spotlight on connections throughout the history of the world. Our music has always intentionally aimed to give a voice to the voiceless, but this project takes that a step further. Usually, it's difficult to come up with titles, but this one wasn't, because we didn't name it, the people did. And yes, it is an apt title. And they definitely do speak out or give voice to the marginalized. So the next album we're going to discuss is Freedom of Speech by Afroman. So the recently released album by Afroman, who of course, or at least in the past, now he's probably just as known for the well-publicized trial, but in the past, he was most known for his one big hit, Because I Got High. But yeah, this recently released album by Afroman is a collection of satirical songs written in response to being sued by the Adams County Sheriff's Department in Ohio, and then the high-profile trial that followed. So on March 18th, 2026, the jury cleared Afroman of any civil damages against the officers, which is a victory of free speech. So I'm not going to get a lot of details about the trial because I discussed that in last month's video. Plus, it has been well publicized. But basically, the police wrongfully broke into his house, Afroman, in order to pay for the damages, released a number of songs and an album. And the videos he released featured footage of the wrongful search at the Adams County Sheriff's Department. So they felt embarrassed by it, so they sued Afroman. And then, of course, like we said, Afroman won the trial, but he's not done. He's now continuing to take shots at those police officers. And in a couple of the songs, he's also targeted the judge who presided over the trial, who also seems to have a clear bias against Afroman. So yeah, he's continuing to speak out and to use his freedom of speech. So the next album we're going to discuss is by Marlon Craft. So featuring infectious jazzy grooves, the latest album by the socially conscious rapper is an insightful critique of online culture. So one of the highlights is the track The Neighborhood, which is a scathing indictment of social media and how it's used as a propaganda tool by the elite. So it includes the lyric, and every city of dreams becomes a city of memes dictated by a shitty regime. And another highlight is the song Find Me, which includes the lyrics, Gaza Strip getting lynched, we're supplying the chips, helpless, we help less, and we lie to exist. If I cry and I sit, or I'm online decrying the shit, inside of the system, you know its defiance exists, violence persists, electoral bodies cancerously gerrymandered, we're just vying for cysts. So yes, some powerful lyricism there. So we're now going to go to our next album, Violence by Eraserhead. So this is the debut album from Eraserhead, which is a project from Jim Ill Painted, who's established an online following for himself for his digital artwork. So concerning the album, he stated, "This is predominantly dark and angry electronic music straight from the heart. Months of obsessive production that draws from techno, acid, hip-hop, drum and bass, trap, footwork, breakcore, and drum. It might not be what you'd expect from a guy that paints funny pictures, but I'm pissed off about a lot of what's going on in the world, as any decent person no doubt is. And MS Paint isn't always the most cathartic medium." So one of the highlights is the anti-mega lead single, Hurricane with Teeth, which features beings previously of the anti-pop consortium. So the next album we're going to discuss, and the final album to conclude our discussion, we got The Quiet Part Loudly by Nameless Friends. So the sophomore album by the Canadian queer inclusive glitter punk band is an invigorating blend of the personal and political, and it covers a range of topics including colonial genocide, police brutality, internet culture, and generational trauma. The album also includes the scathing anti-Trump tune, "There's a Rapist in the White House." So another highlight of the album is Westward Ho, which opens with the chilling lyric, "They buried children in my hometown, seeds of some god's greed, 6 feet down." So that lyric highlights a dark chapter of Canadian history in connection with our treatment of Indigenous people. And even when you talk about the buried children, part of that dark history is the residential schools as well. So the lyrics also make reference to boots on the ground, oil in the ground, and bodies in the ground, making statements against police brutality and the wars fought in the name of colonialism and blood-stained capitalism. This is an excellent, like I said, glitter punk album, and there's some insightful social statements. So that concludes the video. So was there any notable protest music released throughout the month that I didn't discuss? Well, if I didn't discuss in this video, there's actually a chance that I did spotlight it on my website, ongoinghistoryofprotestsongs.com. So you could also look at the expanded article as well. But if there's any notable protest music that you want to spotlight, feel free to let me know in the comments. It doesn't have to be this month. If there's any newer protest artists, songs, or albums that you want to highlight or even recommend that I check out, you can mention that in the comments as well. So if you want me to continue making videos like this, please like and subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss any further videos. And one last final shameless plug, Ongoing History of Protest Songs.com. Thanks for watching, and please stay safe.